Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special council. If you don't mind, I'm going to take my mask off while I speak. Some may prefer it to be muzzled. So we've got the conferral of the title of the Honorary Alderman at Oxford City Council. And first I would like to accept the formal resolution put to Council. And we have Councillor Tidball to propose and Councillor Brown to second for Christine Sim.
Lord Mayor, it's a pleasure to propose Christine Sim to you as Alderman today. A fighter, a collaborator, a problem solver, a friend. Words colleagues and our comrades use to describe Christine as an Oxford City Councillor, as Chair of the Public Affairs Committee, as City Executive Board Member and Deputy Lord Mayor. She doesn't seek accolades or the limelight, but is a grafter who has made an outstanding contribution to Oxford's community and lasting impact on our city over her 2 terms of office on the council. From championing the redevelopment of East Oxford Community Centre, supporting Florence Park Community Centre and Flows, the Place in the Park, to being chair of Donington Doorstep, where she led a campaign for it to survive and thrive, shepherding it to success. Her social work ethic is a golden thread which has been woven through her work. So too has been her capacity to bring people together, to make the city fairer. Increasing access to the arts and culture has been a significant part of her work. As portfolio holder for culture and communities and chair of the Museum of Oxford Trust, she found the museum a home at the front of the town hall, a move which saw it receive 80,000 visitors. Its success led her to work closely with Peter McQuitty, Vanessa Lee and David Dewler and many members of the city's cultural sector to secure the grants from the Heritage Lottery Fund and the Arts Council Fund for the transformed Museum of Oxford we can all enjoy today. A fantastic achievement which is testament to her positivity and her ability to involve members, officers and residents in reaching solutions together. This museum will make the history of our city accessible to all those who live here. Beyond her achievements, Christine has been a kind mentor and caring colleague to me and many other members. I shall ever be grateful for our long lunches during my maternity leave when she covered my portfolio, her warmth, sharp wit and shrewd political analysis, keeping me included and, dare I say, fueling our gossip. I commend Christine to you today as thoroughly deserving of the nomination of Alderman of our city.
And Susan to second, please.
I'm delighted to second the nomination for Christine Sim to become an Alderman of Oxford City. I'm so glad that I and many others here present had the pleasure of serving alongside Chris. Chris's dedication to public service has been clear throughout her life and not just in the role she's played as a councillor. Chris was a social worker in the voluntary sector before teaching social work at Ruskin College in Oxford, where she pursued her interest in helping adults return to education. Another really important part of Chris's work for the local community has been her support over many years, as Marie has said, for Donington Doorstep Family Centre. And Chris's work there over many years has been typical of her approach, practical, kind and caring. I know that some of the work that she did with Donington was hard to bear at times, notably some of the work supporting survivors of child sexual exploitation. Chris, I want to particularly thank you and the generation of women you served with, such as your dear friend Val Smith. You became chairs of committees, made it possible for women to bring small babies into the council chamber, a battle still apparently being fought in Westminster, and did so much for women across our city. There's still plenty to do, not least on the gender pay gap and in other equalities work, but we've come a very long way. I only wish that there was a better word than alderman with which to honour you. Thank you.
We do hereby recognise the eminent services rendered by former councillor Christine Sim to Oxford City Council as a past member of the council for a period of 15 years and former Deputy Lord Mayor of Oxford. And by a majority of 2/3 of those present and voting do confer the title of Honorary Alderman of Oxford City Council on Christine Sim. May we put our hands up to vote, please? Those for.
I believe that's carried, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
When I heard that I was going to become a Honorary Alderman and get to speak at the ceremony, I reflected on what happens when you first become a councillor, and you have all the excitement of the campaign and the hype of the council, and then you walk through those doors and you realise what hard work it is, how much you have to read, how much you have to absorb, how much you have to understand. Sometimes about topics that maybe not so much of interest to you. You have to learn to develop that face, special face, which I call the spreadsheet face. You look at the spreadsheet and, face there. And you have a special face that makes it look like you're studying. Maybe that's me. I don't think so, actually. So, I think for most people becoming a councillor, there's some passion that drives them. And for me, and I was really interested in Susan's comments about this, for me it was equal rights for women and girls, and that was a passion from when I was about 11 or 12, because I didn't call myself a feminist then, because I probably didn't know the word, but I was quite pretentious actually, so I might have known it, but I didn't know this. So that was, I grew up in the 1950s and the 60s, and most of the protections and services that exist for women and girls now, we didn't have. They weren't there. Financial independence, the access to sexual health and reproductive services, safe spaces for women who experience domestic violence, none of them existed. They've all been fought for online in that very short period of history. And things that can be won can be lost again. And 60 years really is a very short time in history. So, I think we need to be vigilant about those things and stay on the right side of history. I mean, I have lived in Oxford for 50 years and I've been privileged to mostly work within the voluntary and community sector or alongside it. And that's been, for me, a huge value and I've learned so much. Matthew Arnold famously described Oxford, the home of lost causes and forsaken beliefs. And I think he was very wrong about that. And I would say that Oxford is the home of thousands of causes. And I'm proud to have played a very small part in some of those causes. So thank you.
Okay, the formal resolution to put to council, and we have Councillor Wolfe to propose and then Councillor Fry to second.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I could speak, of course, about Craig's friendship and support of me, but it's really not about me. This is about Craig's significance to the city over many, many years. And many people here will, of course, have worked alongside Craig in different ways on different committees for years, and some are new to the chamber and may not be aware. I'm not going to recycle all the things that he's done because time doesn't allow. I think what I would say is that when Craig came onto the council, mentored, I think he would agree, by Mike Woodin, who was the late lamented Mike Woodin, a real green visionary in those days, and from whom Craig has drawn a lot of spiritual energy, I think, and has kept that flame, if that's the right phrase, going ever since. Has inspired us within the party, and I think had a very quiet but persistent and wise influence on the work of this council for many years. When I was first elected, I look back at our Green Party manifesto on transport for Oxford City, 1995. We're now beginning to talk about those things now. It was kind of, well, we've been doing it for about 3 or 4 years, but that was completely ahead of the curve. Of course, in those days, climate change, global warming was talked about, but by golly, history has caught up with us. And the sort of thinking which Craig has brought through his involvement in the councils, the committees of the council over those years is really being owned cross-party, for which we're delighted, because the more people that accept these things, the better, the more chance we have of achieving change. It's never going to happen with one party alone. But that cause, particularly climate change, of course, have been very close to Craig's heart all the way through. His capacity for work has been frankly outstanding. If I can number the number of emails I've received sent at 2 a.m, WhatsApp messages at that sort of time, I don't honestly know when you ever slept, Craig, and I'm so delighted that you've managed to stand down for the time being and recuperate. I commend him to you, friends, as a true servant of the City of Oxford, its people and its future, hopefully.
Councillor Fry to second, please.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. When I arrived on this council nearly 10 years ago, I was genuinely very daunted by Craig's reputation, both on the county. He was a county councillor as well as a city councillor. And as we soon gravitated towards the same committees, I was doubly daunted about how we would get on. Instead, while I know Craig is no kitten, he proved to be a wonderful fellow councillor and a model member of the rather nerdy committees that he and I ended up on, mainly dealing with finances. What impressed me, and in fact this goes with what Dick has said, I mean, he read the papers, he worked bloody hard, and he had very helpful comments. And he set, I believe, the bar very high for all the rest of us on those committees and panels. And he then proved his mettle by being a superb Lord Mayor, cycling all over the place and dealing with the dreadful COVID pandemic. So I was genuinely extremely sad when he stood down from the council. And so I'm delighted to second this nomination for him to, I don't know what we call it, the aldermanship, anyhow, to become an alderman of the city.
We do hereby recognise the eminent services rendered by former Councillor Craig Simmons to Oxford City Council as a past member of the Council for a period of 17 years and as a former Lord Mayor of Oxford. May I take this to the vote? Hands up for those 4, please.
That's passed, Lord Mayor.
Oops. And by a majority of 2/3 of those present and voting do concur that title Honorary Alderman to Oxford City Council upon Craig Simmons.
unexpected but very kind words. I must admit, I did hesitate a little bit when I was offered the honour of Alderman, for two reasons. Firstly, when we discussed this at the council, reinstating the title of Alderman, I actually said we should use a less gender-specific term and go for Alder. Now, I didn't get my way on that one. The alternative was Alder person, I think, which sounded more like a sort of nutrition or something. So in the end, I guess we ended up with something that wasn't quite what I wanted, but there. The second reason is, when you do honour individuals, you tend to get the contribution of others. And I think this is really important, in this case, to recognise the contribution of others around the chamber and around the city. And for me, the honour of Alderman is really a reflection of that support I've had over 20 plus years on the county and over 17 years on the city. And this all started with my amazing family who have come to visit me today, my mother and father there, who've braved the weather to come and let the car all the way to me. When they were coming over here, my dad called me from the car and said, I hope your speech is good, otherwise I'm asking for my money back. So I'm hoping it's good enough for them. Always sets the bar high, I think. And of course, Elise, who's in the subordinates room, who's my partner, and everyone knows, former councillor and former Lord Mayor as well. She's really has been my rock and my support, and very much our duties are very much shared with the other councillors, because that's the only way we can get work-life balance to operate. And my long-suffering daughter, who's in Edinburgh at the moment studying, and she was actually born 2 weeks before I was re-elected to the county, and she still claims, I used to carry her around while I was cancer, and she still claims to have a dip in her head where I used to rest the clipboard. But she's been great, and despite her out of the house, of course, singing with leaflets and strangers knocking on the door all the time, she still managed to sort of somehow bring herself to the local area, which is great. And Green Party members, supporters, I think my co-councillor for ages, who's mentioned my Green, is very much my mentor. People like remember died in 2004 at the age of 38, it was tragic, while still a sitting councillor. And other Green Party members and supporters, councillors past and present, and officers, staff and fellow councillors who've all been really helpful and supportive over my time. And it's been great to work with you cross-party, because I think that's how things move forward. And last but not least, often, many not-for-profits and voluntary organisations and community groups in the city, I've learned far more from them than I ever felt that they've learned from me. And I think that is really a sort of, we're right to be very proud of our sort of community culture within the city and how it works. And so, just to end really, I think it's honour, it's great to have it, but I really think it's from all those people, and it's really very much shared today. So thank you.
And last but not least, the formal resolution put to Council, and proposers Councillor Hollingsworth and seconder Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I first met John Tanner within weeks of moving to Oxford in 1991, my first constituency Labour Party meeting. And it's a measure of John's powers of persuasion that I left that meeting having volunteered to run Labour's general election campaign in Wolverhampton. And it's a tribute to his powers of inspiration that I probably believed for a few hours at least that we were going to win. John Tanner, and with apologies to Anthony, that bloody John Tanner, as a reasonable proportion of Oxford's population believe his full name to be, has served this council and this city for more than 30 years. And that nickname is one he should wear with pride. Because John has always had the bravery and the honesty to say what he believes to be right, even when he gets brickbats in response. Because John has so often been among the first to argue for change, long before others see that that change needs to be made. And because John's energy, persistence, and that legendary power of persuasion always gets things done. It was John who provided part of that driving force in the 1990s to ensure that the delivery of the original Oxford Transport Strategy, with its pedestrianisations, its priority to public transport, and its radical vision of how a city that is proud to build cars need not have its streets dominated by them. And we all need to take our own inspiration from John's example as we take up that challenge today. Is that combination of the two skills that every successful politician has, both to see what needs to be changed and to say so, and then to work tirelessly to bring that change about, that marks out John Tanner. Like so many of us here, he made this city his home. Much more than most, he has changed it for the better. And so I am honoured to nominate John Tanner for the title of Honorary Alderman of Oxford City Council.
Councillor Hayes.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I'm delighted to second the nomination of John Tanner for the title of Honorary Alderman of the City of Oxford. When John Tanner chose to stand down from the Cabinet in 2018, I took on the portfolio that he'd held for 10 years. John's about so much more than climate change. He's focused on a whole range of issues, but I'm going to focus on climate change specifically. Everybody, and I mean everybody in the climate world, knows John, because he takes the time to get to know them, to find out what motivates them, to enjoy their company, to have conversations, and those conversations can last from a minute to an hour or much longer. Sadly, we're a more individualised society, and too often, time is money. A pandemic keeps us apart, and how we interact is changing. John, in his approach, is truly exceptional. When I took on John's portfolio, as I still often see it, I didn't simply inherit a stream of projects which were in their own right groundbreaking. I was gifted something very unique: access to a community that's open to close partnership working and enjoys working with the council. John knows that it's people who make the biggest difference, and that creating belongings to people and place, this place, Oxford, is truly what motivates change. He's expert at tapping into the love that people feel for this city and recognising that the council can play a role in nourishing that love, but cultivating the relationships to tackle common goals together. If you ever see John at work, he's making and sustaining those relationships, and you'll see him as relaxed, unhurried, jovial. And yet he's a man in a hurry. He recognises that the clock is ticking to tackle climate change, and in the roles that he's had, he's moved along projects and policies which he's innovated, going further and faster by embedding them within those relationships. The bus low emission zone, plans for the zero emission zone, decarbonising the city's carbon footprint by 40% by 2020, building a low carbon partnership, making a successful low carbon hub, recycling an enviable proportion of household waste, decarbonising the council, the list goes on. In time, John is going to be seen as one of this country's foremost councillors. He's already seen as one of Oxford's best councillors now, but when climate gets the recognition that it deserves, when local government gets the recognition that it deserves for the role that it plays in meeting our climate breakdown, John's innovation and his approach to bringing communities alongside us is going to be seen as truly innovative. I'm delighted to second this nomination.
We do hereby recognise the eminent services rendered by former councillor John Tanner to Oxford City Council as a past member of Oxford City Council for a period of 31 years and a former Lord Mayor of Oxford. May I take this to the vote, please? Raise your hands.
It's passed, Lord Mayor.
And by a majority of 2/3 of those present and voting do confer the title of Honorary Alderman of Oxford City Council upon John Tanner.
comrades, honoured guests, I'm overwhelmed, very grateful, and thank you so much. I had planned to give a very good speech this evening, but unfortunately it takes half an hour to get through, so I just wanted to say what a great honour it is for me to receive this older person, or whatever it is, award. It's more than I deserve, and I really feel that, especially this evening, seeing such wonderful councillors of all parties and working here in Oxford City Council, that the honour actually belongs to you as councillors. You are the people who are elected by the community, who bring the community together. You know, there are always 3 or 4 different positions and everybody is certain they're right, and you manage somehow to knit them together and then to stand up in this council chamber and to make the argument for a particular policy or a particular line of action, whether it's LTNs or whether it's zero emission zones or whatever it is. And you bring people together. Councillors are not honoured enough in our society. People are not in it for themselves. We haven't got any Conservatives here tonight, but even Conservative councillors are not in it for themselves. They do it for the community. So I think the honour really should go to them. And the other point I want to make is this, that there is only one issue, as has just been said, as Thomas said, and that is climate justice. And I hope that each of you will bend all your efforts to making sure that we achieve climate justice in this city. And you can be absolutely certain, I've got a little book here, I shall be taking notes, and any people who fall down on duty, I shall have your names here and I shall be giving you a call. So the campaign goes on. Thank you so much. I don't deserve it, but it's great to have it, and thanks very much.
Okay, now we've got the closing speech by Leader of the Council, Susan Brown.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here today to honour 3 fine former local councillors who have served our city so well, and for a combined 63 years of service. During that time, each one of them, as you'll have heard, has brought about real and lasting change for the better in our city. And I think we've also heard about the importance of campaigning for the things that we believe in. And I think we've also seen the powers of persuasion of each and every one of them. And by the way, I think at that same meeting, I got made constituency secretary as a result of John's powers of persuasion. So I think we can well recognise those powers of persuasion. As has been discussed, the title of Alderman is a rather odd one, and it has a rather checkered history. In the 19th century, aldermen would be elected not by the electorate, but by the council, including the outgoing alderman, for a term of 6 years, which allowed a party that narrowly lost an election to retain control by choosing aldermen. This outrage on democracy was changed by the Municipal Corporations Amendment Act in 1910, so that outgoing aldermen were no longer allowed to vote. These days, however, it is used as a way of honouring long-serving councillors for their service. And just to be clear, they do not get a vote. But we are very proud today to be able to honour you with this particular honour. I'm going to finish today with a literary reference for which I am grateful to Councillor Tidball, who has been rereading Beatrix Potter rather more recently than I. For those of you not familiar with the tale of Jeremy Fisher, I have a copy here, thank you, supplied by Marie. He has a good friend, Alderman Ptolemy Tortoise. Alderman Ptolemy Tortoise, when invited for tea, contributes a salad in a string bag. And I'm sure that all of our new aldermen will be impressed by his example of a healthy, vegan contribution in a reusable container. And frankly, more tasty sounding than Jeremy Fisher's offering to him of roasted grasshopper with ladybird sauce. So my hearty congratulations and thanks to all of our new aldermen.
Truly well deserved. Just before I close the meeting, just to remind the three aldermen and their guests to go to Lord Mayor's parlour, where I will join you, and the Deputy Lord Mayor will chair full council, and then I will return after lunch. And, oh, sorry, there's one thing that I did forget. Apologies, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We have apologies from councillors Aziz, Altaf Khan, Miles Malik, Humberston and Jafari Marbini. Sorry.
Okay, this meeting is now closed. Thank you.